Hello and welcome to the English with Kit podcast. I'm Kit, an independent English teacher from the UK, but I have been living in northwestern France for the past 5 years. Since living in France, French learning podcasts have really helped me improve my French language skills. And this inspired me to start my own English learning podcast in the hope that it will help other language learners brush up on their English. This is my first ever podcast episode, and I'm really looking forward to connecting with English learners all around the world. At the end of this episode, I'll go through some common expressions from the episode that you can start using today to sound more natural when speaking English. In addition, you'll find the link to the transcript of this episode in the description box below. So without further ado, grab a cup of your favorite beverage, whether that be tea, coffee, juice, or something stronger, and settle in with this episode. In today's episode, I'll be taking you on a journey to the UK as I talk about how I got started teaching English back in 2012. In early 2012, I was in my third and final year of university in the UK. My bachelor's degree in English and creative writing was soon coming to an end, and I was pretty stressed out as I had no idea what I was going to do afterwards. I wasn't sure whether I wanted to go into writing, editing, teaching, or something else, okay? I had absolutely no idea. Perhaps some of you can relate to that feeling of studying and not being sure what to do afterwards. And if you have been in that position, you know that it can be quite scary. At least it was for me. So I can't remember exactly how I got the idea to teach English as a second language or teach English as a foreign language. But one thing I knew is that I'd always been interested in other cultures, and this is something I really wanted to experience for myself. So I decided to do a TEFL qualification. So if you're not familiar with a TEFL qualification, it's teaching English as a foreign language, okay? TEFL, teaching English as a foreign language. And this is a course for anyone who wants to learn how to teach English to people for whom English is not their first language. Okay, so I decided to do this while I was finishing up my degree. Now, I know that some people might think it's a little strange or a little crazy even that I took this qualification, that I took this TEFL course at the same time as I was working on my final dissertation. Now, this was the most important assignment of my university life. But luckily, I'm pretty organized. Okay, so I managed to balance my TEFL course and my final dissertation without losing my mind. And I managed to do this by doing part of the qualification online and part of it in an actual physical classroom. So that was how I managed. If it had been entirely in person, I don't think I would have managed to balance everything. Okay, so yeah, in 2012, I am doing my TEFL course, and strangely enough, around that time, my first teaching opportunity came about very unexpectedly. My friend, one of my friends at the university, she saw a job offer poster in the library. And it turned out that the university was looking for students to teach English to Spanish visitors to the university for about 3 to 4 weeks. I don't remember exactly, but it was quite a short period of time. And my friend knew that I was thinking about going into teaching after finishing my degree. So she snapped a photo of the poster and sent it to me. And I'm very grateful to her for that, because this is what got me started. I immediately applied for the job. I was very excited. And I was very lucky and a little surprised when I actually got the job. It might have helped that at the time I was also doing a TEFL course. I guess it showed to the course manager that this was something that I really wanted. So I think this is what helped in my case. They assigned me to teach a group of adults. Okay, so the visitors were both adults and children, and 2 or 3 other students from the university were assigned to teach the children. My group was made up of 5 young people from Spain. They were around 20 years old, if I remember correctly, and they were there to help the course leader, because they brought a lot of kids over from Spain to the UK. The course leader needed help, and these young people were there to help her with the children. So these young people were joined by the group leader, the course leader, and I became their teacher. I remember heading to university on the first day of these classes and being so nervous. My stomach was doing somersaults for the entire bus ride that morning, as you can imagine. However, when I got there, when I arrived at the university and met the students for the first time, I was relieved to find that they were absolutely lovely. They were very kind and very eager to participate. And they really seemed to enjoy the various activities I'd prepared with the help of my brand new TEFL lesson planning course book. So I was really relieved that they seemed to enjoy themselves. All of these young people spoke English already. Some were around B1 level, some were a little more advanced at B2 level, but they were all happy to have the opportunity to brush up on their English skills. We had a lot of fun and interesting conversations, and I really enjoyed learning about their lives in Spain. So the adult course was going along nicely. I was getting on really well with them, and we were enjoying discussing the cultural differences between Spain and the UK. Everything was going great until one day when I got a message from the course leader. And she said that they needed a teacher for that day to cover one of the children's classes. So this was completely new ground for me. By that point, obviously, I had had a little experience teaching adults, but I had never taught children before. And to be honest, the thought terrified me. There were around 15 to 20 children. I was completely inexperienced, and though I found the kids to be very nice, they were also very noisy and very overexcited. I didn't really know how to handle that as I was so inexperienced, so I just did the best I could. Fortunately, I got through the morning in one piece and was so glad to get back to my adult students the next day. This is kind of ironic as I went on to teach children English as a foreign language a few months later, but we'll talk about that in another episode. At the end of the course, the students gave me a lovely thank you card that they each signed with a lovely, kind message. You might notice that I'm using the word lovely a lot, and this is a very British thing. Okay, it's very common for British people to use the adjective lovely to describe nice situations or nice people. Okay, so if you hear me saying it a lot, don't be surprised. That's just my Britishness coming through. So they gave me this card, this lovely, lovely card with some lovely, kind messages. And I remember feeling very touched by this gesture. I believe they gave me some flowers too, if I remember right. And yeah, I was just really happy that morning. Also because I had completed my first ever English course and the students had enjoyed themselves, which was my goal at the beginning. And there we are. That is the story of how I got started teaching English oh so many years ago. Now it feels like a lifetime ago. So a few months later, after I'd graduated from university, I was offered my first full-time teaching job in Wuhan, China. And I decided to accept this job. I was also offered a position in Turkey, and it was a very difficult choice for me because I wanted to go to both countries, but in the end I decided to take a big leap and head to China to teach English. But that's the story for another episode. And there we go. I hope you have enjoyed this episode and have picked up some handy words, phrases, expressions that you can start using today. Please stick around because in a moment I'm going to introduce you to some of the words and phrases that I used in this episode, some phrasal verbs, some common expressions, so on and so forth, that you can use. Okay, so you may have already guessed the meaning of some of these phrases from the context of this episode. But if there are some that you're still not sure about, stick around and I'll explain them to you. So thank you so much for listening to my first ever podcast, and I hope you have a good one. So one of the phrases that we heard in this episode was brush up on something. Okay, so to brush up on something means to improve a skill. For example, I want to brush up on my English. I want to brush up on my English, which means I want to improve my English. Another expression, to go into something. To go into something. And this means to enter a field or an area of work. Okay, it could be science, technology, teaching, medicine. These are just a few examples of fields we can go into or enter. For example, someone who wants to become a doctor might say, I have always wanted to go into medicine and become a doctor. I have always wanted to go into medicine and become a doctor. Another phrasal verb from the episode is to come about. Okay, to come about, which means to happen. For example, my first teaching job came about in 2012. My first teaching job came about, happened, in 2012. To snap a photo of. To snap a photo of something means the same as to take a photo. For example, she snapped a photo of the poster and sent it to me. She snapped a photo of the poster and sent it to me. To snap a photo, to take a photo. To get through something in one piece. For example, I got through my first lesson in one piece. This means to survive something or to not be hurt or damaged by something. So if I say, I got through my first lesson in one piece, it means I survived my first lesson. At the end, I use the phrase, have a good one. Have a good one is a phrase that we use when we say goodbye, when we wish someone goodbye, and it is a common synonym of have a good day or have a good time. Finally, towards the end of the podcast, you may have heard the word handy. Handy is an adjective which is a synonym of useful. So, for example, at the end of the episode, I said, I hope you enjoyed this episode and have picked up some handy words, phrases, and expressions you can start using today.